There's a quiet idea that has traveled across centuries without ever making it into the spotlight. It doesn't come packaged, branded, or promoted, and yet it keeps resurfacing in the margins of history wherever people were forced to survive without systems. A simple strand of copper wire, a resilient ancient grain, and a method so low-tech it almost sounds unbelievable. And yet, when you follow the trail from ancient civilizations to modern field trials, the same pattern keeps appearing: stronger plants, higher yields, and crops that endure when others fail. Not in theory, not in controlled labs alone, but in real soil, under real stress. That raises a bigger question worth your attention today. Why do some of the most effective agricultural techniques remain hidden in plain sight? Before we go deeper, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who cares about food security, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Garden Smart for more content like this. Now let's get into something that could genuinely change how you think about growing food. Long before industrial farming reshaped agriculture, civilizations relied on crops that could survive extremes. Amaranth stands out among them. Cultivated by ancient cultures in Central and South America, this grain earned a reputation not just for survival, but for abundance. It matures quickly, produces tens of thousands of seeds per plant, and thrives in poor soil where crops like maize or wheat struggle. What makes amaranth remarkable is not just its resilience, but its nutritional density. It contains significantly more protein than common grains, along with essential amino acids like lysine that are often missing in plant-based diets. It also delivers high levels of calcium, iron, and magnesium. This combination made it more than a staple. It was insurance against famine. Unlike modern hybrid crops, amaranth is open-pollinated. That means you can save seeds year after year without losing quality. In a world increasingly dependent on purchased inputs, that one trait alone makes it powerful. Now comes the part that sounds almost too simple. Electroculture is the practice of using conductive materials, often copper, to interact with natural electrical fields in the environment. The most basic method involves wrapping a thin copper wire around a plant or a nearby stake and extending it into the soil. There are no batteries involved, no external electricity. The effect comes from natural interactions between copper, moisture, minerals in the soil, and atmospheric charge. This creates a subtle electromagnetic influence around the plant's root zone. Modern explanations point to improved ion exchange and enhanced nutrient absorption. In simpler terms, the plant becomes more efficient at using what is already available in the soil. Instead of adding more inputs, you're helping the plant access what's already there. While the concept has roots in ancient observation, it hasn't gone entirely untested in modern times. Small-scale studies and field experiments in regions like India and parts of Africa have reported measurable improvements in plant growth when copper is introduced in this way. Amaranth, in particular, seems to respond strongly. Increased root mass, thicker stems, and higher seed yields have been observed in comparative trials. Some reports suggest yield increases well beyond what conventional improvements typically achieve without fertilizers. So, it's important to stay grounded here. Not every experiment shows dramatic results, and outcomes can totally vary depending on things like soil composition, climate, and how the method is actually applied. But honestly, the consistency of positive trends across all these different environments is what really keeps this technique relevant. The absence of electroculture in mainstream agriculture isn't necessarily because it doesn't work. It's actually, largely because it just doesn't fit into the current agricultural model. Modern farming systems are, built around inputs that can be scaled, sold and standardized. Copper wire is inexpensive, reusable, and doesn't require ongoing purchase. Amaranth seeds can be saved indefinitely. There's no dependency cycle built into the system. That makes it, well, difficult to integrate into commercial frameworks that rely on recurring sales. This doesn't make it a conspiracy. It just makes it a mismatch between economic incentives and practical resilience. So, if you're curious enough to test this yourself, the method is actually pretty straightforward. You'll want to use bare copper wire, not the coated or insulated kind. Just wrap it loosely around a wooden stake or gently spiral it near the plant, making sure you're not constricting its growth at all. And, the lower end of the wire should go directly into the soil. Spacing really matters here. Each plant or cluster should have its own wire setup, rather than trying to share a single strand across multiple plants. It's important to keep your expectations realistic. This isn't, a guaranteed miracle, but it's definitely a variable worth testing in your own conditions. Pairing this with Amaranth gives you an ideal baseline, since the plant itself is hardy enough to show clear differences if the method is actually effective in your soil. What makes this combination powerful is not just the potential for increased yield, it's really about the independence it represents. A crop that grows in poor soil, produces abundant nutrition, and doesn't need constant external inputs is already super valuable. Add a method that might enhance its efficiency without any extra cost, and you start to see a system that can operate outside those fragile supply chains. History shows us that the most resilient communities weren't the ones with the largest stockpiles, but the ones with the deepest knowledge of how to regenerate food under pressure. That's honestly the real takeaway here. Whether electroculture becomes a regular part of your gardening practice or just an experiment, it points to a bigger principle. The most useful techniques are often the simplest, and the most overlooked. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, make sure you subscribe to Garden Smart, share this with someone who needs it, and keep the conversation going in the comments.